So, folks, yesterday was a really devastating day. When we wrapped up recording the show, sadly, we found out the awful news that Rush Limbaugh was taken from us way too soon. He was only 70. Rush probably had a good solid 30 more years of transforming the political landscape, and now we're left without him. There have been relatively few people in the history of the Republic who have had such a profound effect on the politics of the country than Rush Limbaugh. He changed everything. As I said the other day, it's not that Rush Limbaugh, I said it, I was in multiple Fox appearances and I meant it. It's not that Rush Limbaugh changed the game. Rush Limbaugh invented the game. You know, Michael Jordan was a really spectacular basketball player, the most dominant athlete of his time in any sport. And he had about a 10 to 15 year run where he was the most talented, most valuable player in the game, I think, in any sport, a game changer in every respect. But Michael Jordan did not invent basketball. Not only was Limbaugh the MVP of talk radio for 30 years, number one, the best player on any team anywhere, he invented the conservative national talk radio platform. Please understand that for all the leftist lunatics who are piling on the death of Rush because you're evil people. Evil has no place here. That's the left saying, no, evil has a place right in your hearts. And we've seen it over and over when conservatives pass and are taken from us way too soon. Understand, to the liberals listening and others, even the younger folks out there, liberal or otherwise, who don't understand the profound nature of what Rush did. Rush invented the game. Talk radio existed before Rush. He didn't invent radio. He didn't invent talk radio. He didn't even invent political talk radio. But what he did invent is national conservative talk radio. The meat and potatoes you were all used to of talk radio. You could not, and Joe, listen, producer Joe has been involved in radio for about as long as I've been alive. He is on a station that carried Rush, that carried Sean, and that carried Mark. He was at WCBM forever, still a great station in the Baltimore area. Got a lot of friends over there. Joe was there a long time. Joe, would it be proper to say that you couldn't drive 50 miles almost anywhere in the United States without getting a signal where Rush Limbaugh would be on the air? Is that a fair assessment?
I think so, man. He was everywhere. He was everywhere. He was nationwide, really.
He was, and he was worldwide. But I think even 50 miles, I was probably closer to 15 miles. You couldn't drive anywhere. And it was, what was the triumvirate, the titans of radio, from 12 to 9 p.m. Eastern time? It was Rush Limbaugh, Hannity, Levin. I'm telling you, there's not a place in the country, probably 15, 20 miles, where you couldn't drive and you wouldn't hear one of those three on the radio, and Rush started it all.
Yeah. Yep.
Forgive me yesterday for not, I heard he passed, I'm not telling you, 5 minutes after we got off the air. And I debated, what do I do? Do I do a Facebook Live? Do I do a Parler video? Do I go back on the air and do a special? And I thought the only way to do this right, to acknowledge the greatness of this titan of the conservative movement, is to take a while and put together a proper segment. So let me do my best here. Remember, he didn't change the game. He invented the game. Here was the opening of Rush's show yesterday, and you'll notice the voice that opens the show. I'll play about 45 seconds of it. It was a very eloquent opening. But the voice you'll hear at the opening of Rush Limbaugh's show yesterday, sadly, was not Rush Limbaugh. Check this out.
Hello, everyone. I know that I am most certainly not the Limbaugh that you tuned in to listen to today. I, like you, very much wish Rush was behind this golden microphone right now, welcoming you to another exceptional 3 hours of broadcasting. For over 32 years, Rush has cherished you, his loyal audience, and always look forward to every single show. It is with profound sadness I must share with you directly that our beloved Rush, my wonderful husband, passed away this morning due to complications from lung cancer.
I mean, goosebumps. Look, those are bad goosebumps. I don't think I've had goosier bumps than that. I mean, a piece of all of us, right, was like ripped out, like a collective Band-Aid that we all wore, just ripped off at one time. I mean, Rush was the godfather. A lot of us in this business and in politics and just, regular working Americans who found some sanity in Rush's 3-hour broadcast every day. A lot of us tuned into Rush sometimes when we just couldn't put together how we were supposed to see things. Sometimes we'd listen to Rush and be like, what did we miss? And you'd watch and listen to the show. Some of you watched on the Ditto Cam and you'd say, you know what? Now I get it. Now it makes more sense. Rush wasn't kidding. Joe, remember Rush's joke? Rush pretended to be on the air a big, like, kind of arrogant guy. It was an act. Rush in real life, as anybody who knew him, I did not know Rush personally. I know many people who did on a very personal level, who will tell you it was an act, that in his real life, Rush was the most humble, down to earth, stacked with humility guy you would ever meet. And his charitable endeavors are legend. I'll talk about one of them in a second that you probably hadn't heard of. But to do what he did for as long as he did, to transform the movement, it's just tough to grasp how, we're going to go forward without having his voice there. Can I tell you? I'm sorry, because I feel like I'm doing the man a disservice. Like, we all learned from Rush. Every single person in this space, I almost lost myself there. I'm sorry. Joe, remember when he used to joke sometimes I get off on tangents and
Yeah.
Remember he used to say in his show, he said, hosts, let your you all talk radio show hosts out there, let your show prep begin. It was a joke. But it was a joke. He was pretending. In other words, what he was saying is, all you others second rate, and believe me, we were all second rate compared to Rush. All you second rate B-teamers, here's what you're going to talk about today because I'm Rush Limbaugh and I'm going to dictate the conversation. It was a joke. It was a faux bravado he did as a joke. It was a shtick. But Joe, I think you can acknowledge it really wasn't. It wasn't. People did listen to Rush Limbaugh in this industry. Joe, am I making this up? People did listen to Rush Limbaugh to say to themselves,
yeah,
okay, what am I going to talk about today? And how should I frame it? Matter of fact,
yeah,
one of the reasons Joe and I, little known story, and it's true, one of the reasons Joe and I just randomly decided to record our show, we start at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And the show goes live around noon or so Eastern time. Then it is broadcast on terrestrial radio later. One of the reasons Joe and I picked that time is because we didn't want the temptation to listen to Rush and be like, we got to just repeat that. Right? We wanted to get out ahead because the temptation, because he was so good. I am not messing with you. Joe knows the temptation. He was so good, Rush, to listen to Rush and just do what Rush did was so great. The only way to avoid it was to get out before Rush. There wasn't trying to beat Rush. Nobody beats Rush. Nobody. We have a substantial audience. Rush was the king, light years ahead of us. Let your show prep begin. He wasn't kidding. That's why this show airs early. Because the temptation to listen to him and repeat it was so great. I never get distracted, and you can probably tell today that I'm just I want to tell my Rush story if I could just quick. We all had them like the first time you heard Rush, right? I remember driving up to Queens College where I was going, obviously to college at the time. And I forget what was going on, that dreadful Hillary Care disaster, or whatever it was. And, I'm in college with a bunch of liberal professors. I mean, it is the City University of New York, Queens College. There's no conservatives there. Very few, at least. And I just had never been exposed to conservative thought in my life. And I remember trying to park my car. You can't park anywhere near Queens College now. You used to be able to. And turning on the radio and hearing this guy. And I'm like, I knew who he was, but thinking, man, this cat really makes sense. Like, what have I been missing? But it's not just those Rush stories. We all have them when you first heard Limbaugh, right? We all have these stories too. If you're like Joe and I and Drew and others in this space who produce content or been on the back end of it, and Joe can probably attest to this too. We all have a story of when you were first mentioned on Rush Limbaugh, whether it was your station where Joe was at WCBM. Mm-hmm. WCBM, the 50,000 watts. Remember, Joe, that thing they had with Limbaugh's voice? But
flamethrower. Yeah.
That's right. But we all have a Rush story too in the business of the first time you were mentioned on the show. I was at Oheka Castle in New York. I don't know what I was doing. I was up there for an event. And I had done a segment on Fox News that morning on Benghazi. It's a long time ago. And my phone starts ringing off the hook. OMG, Rush Limbaugh. Limbaugh's talking about you right now. They think their phone going crazy, right? We all have stories like that. When Limbaugh first mentioned your article, if you wrote at Town Hall or Conservative Review or Breitbart or whatever it may be, Limbaugh brought up your article. That article promptly got 72 million clicks and shut the website down. We all had stories like that. He was a godfather. Irreplaceable.